So this evening, we're going to get right into it. Coming into cat-cow. I'm going to have the block right by the side of us, ready to grab that in a second. We're going to start with the knees hip distance apart on underneath, shoulders and hands aligned. Just drawing the chest forwards a little bit, rolling the shoulders back, seeing how that feels. Tilt the pelvis, roll the spine, and again, just stretch it out easy. Couple of repetitions, get a little bit of juice back into the joints, into the muscles, let the fascia expand and stretch a little bit and contract. Generally just priming your body, and then you can work a little harder, press into the shins, into the hands, get a little bit more roundy in the back. And we might or may not actually move any further, but just feel a little deeper. I'm going to come into neutral, take my block between the thighs and squeeze the thighs together onto the center line. I just want to know that I can press inwards and do cat-cow the same way, just getting a little bit of a different feeling. So I want to be able to grip that block, feel my inner thighs activating, still pressing the shins down, adding a little extra dimension. And we'll come back into neutral spine. Remove the block out from between the thighs, tuck the toes on the right leg underneath, and send the foot to the back of the mat. Going to come into Superman pose. So we're going to push away from the floor a little bit. So we start to kind of round the upper back a little bit. Gently lift the right foot off the floor, being as aware as we can be, not to let the spine hang down, and then taking the left hand out directly in front, stretching out through the fingertips. Bring that hand back down, bring the knees back down, tuck the toe on the other foot, press away so you start to get a little bit of protraction into the shoulder blades. Lift the legs slowly, the toes point down, foot is flexed, we stretch out through fingertips and heel. Bring the hands and the knees back down. We'll tuck the toe, right foot underneath again. I'm going to slide the foot over towards the left as far as you can. Your left thigh will move a little bit out to the left side, but not too far. Keep the foot on the ground, toes tucked under, and press out through the heels so the leg is straight. You feel the thighs kind of squeezing into each other. The bottom leg that you're resting on is a sort of a 10 to 15 degree angle. You bring the foot back, knee to the floor, tuck the toes of your opposite leg out, swing that out to the side. You can travel a little bit sideways. Keep the head in line, belly drawn in. Still pressing down through the hands. We're still pushing away from the floor that little bit. Slide that foot back into the center. Tuck the toes underneath. Lift up into our down dog. So just checking your hands position first. Then lifting the hips up and back. Allowing yourself to work out through your down dog in any way that feels comfortable. So lots of options. We frequently explore different ways of playing with down dog. So allow yourself to trust your body, see what it needs. Maybe it needs movement if you've been stuck at a desk all day. If you've been working and walking around and moving your body a lot, maybe it needs some rest. It just wants to hold in one position. Maybe it just feels different because it's a different Friday. Okay, now walk the hands in towards the toes. Bring the fingers in line with the toes. Soften the body so the ribs and thighs connect, which means you might need to soften the knees as well. And then on the inhale of our next breath, we'll bring the hands onto the shins and let ourselves lengthen halfway forwards. Draw it back down into that fold. Hands on the shins to lift up. Fold it back down. The shins again. Weights in the toes. Fold it in. Hands onto the hips this time. Shoulders draw back. Soften the knees as we lengthen that flat back. Now just to show you what we're doing, we're going to take the left hand behind and take hold of the sort of right elbow. And then we're going to roll the left shoulder around. So it's that bent arm, shoulder circling. And then we'll see if we can go the opposite direction, which doesn't sound like it should be much of a challenge, but can surprise a little bit. So we're opening the shoulder joint, front of the chest, deltoid, traps as well. And then we'll shake that out and cross over to the other side. Drawing backwards with the shoulder, big circles you can manage. Again, a little bit of coordination needed there. It's not a natural kind of shoulder movement with the hand being used as a brace. And then we'll move the opposite way. And then release it. And again, shake it all out. Not towards the front edge of the mat. Allow ourselves to have the feet parallel and hip distance apart. Inhale high. With the hands through the heart. Hinge forwards. Weight into the toes as we come down. Going to come up onto the fingertips. Lengthen the body forwards. Fold in again. Bring the fingers back in line with the toes. Take the right foot back into a deep lunge, keeping the knee high. Take a little breath and drop the heel in. Ready for warrior two, bringing the hands alongside the body. We lift a little bit, that right hand forwards and cartwheel ourselves up. Float the arms towards the sky, rotate the body, lengthen out 45 degrees, keep the back foot planted, heel down. And bring the hands to the floor, step back into our down dog. Inhale to a plank, keeping the hips high. Push forwards on the toes for half plank. Bring those ribs and elbows to meet, and then inhale the chest, roll it back. We've got one breath to lengthen out through the legs. Then use the hips to lift up with the shoulders a little bit, drawing the two together. We're back into our down dog. Take one more breath here. Draw the right knee in, come into our lunge. And press off the toes into forward fold. Hands onto the hips. Soft knees and lift. Inhale high. We'll do the same second side, leading with the left foot. Exhaling down. Fingertips to lift. Fold. Left foot back. Onto the fingertips, strong back leg. Drop the heel in. Warrior twos. Hands along the side, little lift. Left arm lengthens forwards. Draw ourselves up slowly from the ground into our warrior two. And the hands come up towards the sky. Rotate and lengthen out halfway. Keep the knee over the ankle, front leg, back heel pressing down. Hands come to the floor, we step back into our down dog. Inhale to that high plank position. Push forwards on the toes. Half plank. Up dog. All the way back into our down dog. Left leg comes in for the lunge. Press off the toes. Forward fold. Hands onto the hips, soft knees, and we lift up. Okay, inhale high. Soften the knees over the toes. Coming into our chair. Hands in towards the heart. We come into half forward fold. Fingertips on the floor and then lift. And then fold it in deep. Taking the right foot to the back of the mat. We keep the heel this time pointing to the sky. Bring the hands alongside the body as you lift a little, draw the belly in. Get both hands out in the front, as in line with your body as you can. Draw the tailbone down and the belly in to lift slowly up into your high crescent. Bring your hands to the floor. Step it into warrior two. Hands alongside the body, a little body lift. Right arm forwards. Draw ourselves up. Inhale the hands to the sky. and float back down to the floor. Step back into down dog. Inhale to plank, half plank, to up dog, to down dog. Right, he comes in for the lunge. And then we step gently forwards. Soften the knees, sit back into our chair, take the hands out into the front, drive up. Hands into the heart, to the sides of the body. Inhale high, soften the knees. Back into that chair. Hands into the heart, we come forwards, straight into that half forward fold. So fingertips are a little ahead, lengthen the body out, fold it back in, nice and deep. Take a little breath, and this time the left leg goes back, hands alongside the body, little lift, lengthen the arms out. Draw the tailbone down, and the belly in a little, high crescent. Still pressing out through the back heel, getting that front hip flexor a nice stretch on the back leg, squaring the hips, the front of the mat if you twist it out through the pelvis a little bit. Bring the hands down to the floor. Step the back heel in, ready for warrior two. Hands alongside the body, a little lift. Left arm forwards, draw our way up. From warrior two, we take the hands high and down to the floor. Step back into our down dog. And float on the breath into plank. Push forwards on the toes, half. Other dog, roll the shoulders back. Keep those legs connected. Back into down dog. And we'll bring that left leg in. Lunge. Step it through. Forward fold. Plant the feet parallel and hip distance apart. Sink back into the chair. Draw the arms away from the ground and lift up. The hands come out to the side, into the heart. Breath in. Let the hands drop again to the side and float into the sky as we breathe in. Allow yourself to soften the knees back into the chair. Hands into the heart. Come forwards. Drop the hands to the floor. Lift up on the fingertips. Get a little bit of length. Folding in deep. This time we're taking the right foot back and dropping the heel in, ready for warrior two. Bring the hands alongside the body, get a little lift. Right arm lengthens out, draws us up into our warrior two. We bring the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers, draw them down towards the floor. Keeping the body facing the long side of the mat. Hinge out. So it's extended side angle, just with no arms. And we're drawing the hands towards the back foot. And then sort of rotate the chest a little more side on to the mat. Just pay attention, even without looking, to where your front knee is. It should still be over the top of your ankle, not popping out to one side or the other. Release back into warrior two. Inhale the hands high, down to the floor, back into down dog, forwards into our plank, half plank. So up dog, to down dog. And we'll draw that right knee in. Lunge. Under the fingertips. Step it forwards. Onto the fold. Step back into the chair. Take the hands out in front. And let ourselves lift. The hands drop out to the side. Into the heart. Hands back to the side. Inhale the hands high. Soften back into that chair. Hands into the heart as we breathe in. Extend it forwards into the half fold. Fingertips come to the floor. We transfer the weight forwards. Get a long spine. Folding deep. We take the left foot back and drop the heel in. Bring the hands alongside the body. Get that little lift. Left arm draws us up into our warrior two. Hands come behind, down to the floor. And we're lengthening out. Trying to follow the line of the rear leg. Make sure you're still pressing that foot down to the floor. The inner thigh should feel like it's working. The quadricep, the thigh muscles should be activated and lifting up towards you. Feel the knees quite easily in the pose still, front and back. Rotate the chest to the side. Draw the hands towards the back foot. Last breath. Release back up. Warrior two, straight into the arms to the sky and down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Come forwards into our plank as we breathe in. Push through on the toes. Inhale strong on the up dog. Exhale, lift those hips and shoulders back into down dog. We'll bring the left leg in. Nice juicy lunge. Step it forwards. Fold in deep. Allow ourselves to sit back. Draw the hands from the floor. Drive through the legs to lift up. Hands by the side of the body. Into the heart. Take a breath in. Exhale forwards and down. Take a little breath. And take the right foot back and drop the heel in. Come back into warrior two. So lift the body. Right arm forwards. Open ourselves up. And take the hands behind the back again. We're going to come into humble warrior. So turn the chest and the hips forwards. Lengthen out through a flat body. Till you feel your ribs touch your thigh. Keep the head in line with the rest of the body. On the exhale, start to lift the hands towards the sky and let the head and the chest sink a little lower to the floor. Taking the hands as high and as far forward as you can and try and keep the hips over the center line. So if they've popped out over to the left rather a lot, you can try to bring them back into the center. Now release the hands to the floor. Come back into lunge, so the back heel lifts, and we step it forwards into the fold. We'll bring the hands onto our hips, soft knees and a flat back. And we inhale high, hands through the heart. Keep the weight come into the toes. As you get tired, it's easy to kind of dump into the heels. Put the left foot back, drop the heel in. Come into our warrior two. Left arm hoists us up to some degree. Hands float behind, rotate, and then we lengthen out. Try and keep the front knee over the ankle, ribs and thighs touch. On the next exhale, squeeze the shoulder blades together, rise the hands, let the head and shoulder drop a little more, starting to look towards the back foot, which makes it easier to connect to and press down. We swivel the hips a little bit, make as much space for those shoulders to lift. And then we'll bring the hands down to the floor, back into lunge, so the heel lifts, and we step through to the front of the mat. We take a little breath, bring the hands under the hips, and we let ourselves lift up. Inhale high, hands into the heart, exhaling to the floor. We'll take the right foot back into lunge and take a twist with the left hand lifting towards the sky. We'll drop that hand down onto the inside of the front foot, transfer the weight to the center line, and open the chest to the right, turning the head gently. Open the side body up, still pressing out through the heel. Ease the hand down to the floor. Bring both hands either side of the front foot, step it into the front of the mat. Hold it in deep, hands on the hips. Soft knees and flat backs to lift. There'll be another side to play with. Forwards, into a fold. Left foot back into the lunge. Right arm lifts, we twist. Let the body rotate around, but keep the hips square. So it's through the spine, not the pelvis moving around underneath. We'll bring the right hand down. Take a moment to find the balance. And then when you're ready, you start to open the chest to the left, and then let the hand follow up towards the sky, rather than trying to sort of pull the shoulder around and use the hand to leverage. It comes from within the middle of your body, rotating around on your axis of the spine and the shoulder. Well, it's nice and easy, really. You're just opening your arms out to the side as far as your arm is concerned. We'll bring the hand down to the floor. Bring hands either side of the front foot up into lunge. Take a little breath and step it in to the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips, and we'll lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. We'll step back about halfway down the mat. Bring the feet together. Give a little gap for the heels. Allow ourselves to slowly soften the knees over the toes and squeeze the thighs together. We'll take the hands out in front, palms facing down, draw the shoulders back. Allow ourselves to lift the heels away from the ground. And then we're going to sink down as if we're sliding down a wall. You're more than a few breaths coming in. I want to get to a point where we think that our thighs are parallel to the ground. So the heels and the buttocks don't touch. Get close, but they don't touch. And then we're going to slowly lift back up, leaning as little forward as possible. Squeezing the thighs together, drawing ourselves up and letting the heels come to the ground, hands by the side. Shake it all out. Whew. So feet are about hip distance apart, hands coming towards the heart. Take a little breath, Soften the knees. Going to deliberately load the weight into the right leg. Allow the left foot to come off the floor. So I'm going to draw the heel in towards the buttock. I'm going to slowly start to hinge forwards and press my left foot towards the back of the mat. I'm going to try to have my leg as high as my hip. Allow the front leg to straighten out a little more. Draw the chest forwards. Hips square to the ground. Warrior 3. To slowly come back, soften the front knee, and bring ourselves back up. Shake out the legs again. And then we'll take the second side. Hands into the heart. Soften the knees. Find your focal point. Fix your gaze. Load your weight. Bring the foot away. Heel to buttock. Hinge forwards. Keep the spine as long and flat as you can. Slowly start to press that rear leg out. Hips square. Toes pointing down. Foot is flexed. Toes spread. Soften the front knee. Bring ourselves gently back in. Plant the foot to the floor. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Walk the fingers into the front of the mat. Walk the toes back into down dog. Float into plank. Forwards for half plank. Up dog. Down dog. And I'm going to come into pigeon pose. So I'm going to draw the feet onto the center line. Take a little breath, bring the left knee in and take it to the outside of the left elbow. Draw it down the elbow to the wrist to the floor. Bring the heel underneath the groin and allow yourself to walk slowly the back foot away. Now we're going to take the block and place that underneath the buttock and thigh on the left side. So what do you do if your bum doesn't actually touch? That's when you need a towel or maybe another type of prop to give you that little bit of height. So if you are supported, we can take it to the next stage. If you're unsupported, you might want to take it to the next stage, but then not any further. There'll be 3 stages altogether. So now we've been here for a little while, we'll draw the belly in. We come up onto the fingertips and start to draw the tailbone down to the floor. I'm going to press the back thigh and knee down into the ground. And if you're able to, you'll lift the body a little bit more. Bring one hand away from the floor at a time. Find your balance and allow yourself to lift up. So you're trying to get the spine to be as upright as you can. Having that block underneath the back of the thigh just gives you the confidence that you're not going to collapse into it. One day we'll progress to doing that without having the blocks underneath. But for today, this is our 3rd level. So you're either on 1, palms to the floor, 2, fingertips, drawing the belly and tailbone down, 3, taking the hands away from the ground. Twist out a little bit to the side. Not a problem. We try and keep our body upright. And then we bring the hands to the floor. Move the block out from beneath that fly and lift ourselves slowly. Knee, then hips, then shoulders back into our down dog. We bring the feet back onto the center line. Once we arrive, we just stretch out through the hips a little bit, the backs of the legs. Bring them back into a kind of a neutral alignment. And then we'll draw the right knee in to the elbow Bring the heel under the body, slide down gently. Untuck the toes on the back foot, slide the foot away. Find our trusty block. And you know why we call them a trusty block, because you do end up trusting them a lot. And again, just easing yourself down. And this is where discrepancies, differences between one hip and the other might become quite apparent. The way that your pelvis and your spine sit together, you might find it easier on one side than the other. So if it doesn't feel like you're supported, remember you just come to level 1 or 2. 3 is just a little bit strong for us on the knees and the ankles and the hips. If we're not giving ourselves a little bit of leverage, we'll take one more breath here and then press down through the back thigh and shin, come up onto the fingertips, draw the belly in, start to drive the pelvis or the tailbone down to the floor. It's that tilting action of drawing the tailbone down to the floor that allows the spine to get a little more vertical, and it also allows the hip to get a little bit more in contact with the block. So again, we take a little breath here, one hand at a time, see how that feels. Now, if you feel you can get enough height and balance, bring the hands in towards the heart. And if your legs are trembling and wobbling around underneath you, then that's okay, because that's exactly what mine are doing. One day they'll get used to it, and then the trembling will stop. Bring the hands down to the floor. Slowly move our trusty block out of the way. And then get a little bit of a lift. Bring ourselves back into down dog. Come forwards into plank. Push forwards on the toes. Half plank to up dog. Down dog. And then knees to the floor. So gently back onto the heels. Whew. Hands palm facing down on the sides. We have a minute here to breathe. So you could call this a regrouping. Chance to settle the breath, the heart, mind. Chance to connect and observe how your body feels at this point in the class. This calmness and clarity allows us to evaluate how we want to move through the class. So it's important that we have these moments. Okay, I'm going to move slowly out of here and allow the legs to lengthen out in front. I want to have the block out to the side, but sort of pretty much lining up with where your hips with the bum are, just a little bit behind is fine. And whilst we arrive into position, I'm going to bring the knees in enough so that the soles of the feet touch the floor and they're about hip distance apart. And take the hands behind, about shoulder distance apart and hip distance apart, hopefully. And then roll the shoulders back and press the shoulders down into the floor so we get a little bit of a chest lift. You're going to lift your bottom off the ground and slide forwards. And then lift yourself up into reverse tabletop. So I'm just going to bring the hips up to the line of the knees and the shoulders. and stays in towards the chest. Exhale down. And we come back into that starting position. So take a little bit of weight off of the wrists. Draw the shoulders back. Press them down. Get that little bit of a chest lift so we know we've retracted the shoulder blades. We lift the bottom. Comes forwards. And we lift up. Slowly come back down to the starting position. A little bit of release in the shoulders and the wrists. We roll back, press down, we get the chest lift, the bottom lifts. We come forwards, lift up, trying to have the knees over ankles and the thighs parallel. We drop back down. And we come back in. Again, a little rest for the shoulders. Draw them back, press them down, get the lift. Bottom away from the ground. Come forwards. Lift up. Ease our way down. All the way back. Lengthen the legs out. Bring the hands forwards and give the wrists a little bit of a roll around. Feet are still flexed towards us. We're lengthening out through the heels. Core muscles are still drawn in to help us sit up nice and straight. Okay, we're going to add to that. We're going to float the bottom back now through the hands or past the hands. We're going to pivot on the heels and point the toes away. Get as much lift from the ground. So the shoulders are going to come round and press down at the same time. So it's quite rounded in the upper back. Head kind of bobs around as well to help. We'll draw the feet back in, hands behind, roll the shoulders back, down, lift the bum, come forwards, lift up, reverse tabletop, bum half an inch from the ground, pivot on the heels, point the toes forwards, draw the bottom through, high as you can, lift yourself through, bum stays off the ground, we lift up, we come down, we pivot, squeeze the core muscles in, try to lean as far forward as you can, keep the bum off the ground, we lift up, shoulders are drawn back, reverse tabletop, and they come round and forwards as we go back. We swing forwards, the shoulders draw back and down to lift up. We're coming in for the last one. And last lift up. It's time down to the floor. Allow the legs to lengthen out. We'll bring the block underneath the bottom. Just move ourselves back up. Again, give the wrists a little bit of a flip-flop. Feet are still flexed towards us, still lengthen out through the heels. Core muscles in, sitting bones down. It may look like we're just gracefully flopping the hands from side to side, which we are indeed, but we're working the rest of the body. And then we'll shake those out. I'm going to bring the right foot in towards the body. I'm going to squeeze that in towards the outside edge of the sitting bone and draw my arms around the top of the knee and the thigh. So I'm going to try and have the body as upright as we can. I do realize that mechanics come into this. If you've got short femur, long spine, you'll end up a little bit more rounded, but we'll work with what we've got in our body. I'm going to pivot the toes forwards again. Take a little breath. And then we're going to lift the left foot off the ground. And then exhale it back. Inhale it up. And exhale it down. Inhale it up. And exhale it down. Inhale it up. and exhale it down. Swap over, take the other leg out, draw the other leg in, and take it out wide, arm hooks round. We sit up as tall as we can. We try and have the foot of the bent leg pointing forwards, and then we start to pivot the tailbone in. Draw the tummy muscles in, get that long spine. And then as you exhale, lift the right leg. Sorry, that should be an inhale. And then exhale down, inhale. Exhale down, so it's working with the breath, it's quite slow. Inhale. Two more, keep the toes pointing away. Last one. Lovely. I'm going to cross the ankles over, let myself come forward, move the block out to the side, come up onto all fours, big spread of the fingers, little finger and thumb as far apart as it can be, tuck the toes underneath, back into our down dog. Just for a little bit of fun, we're going to bring the toes onto the center line. And we'll draw the right knee in towards the chest, keep squeezing that in as we come into a plank. We'll move back into our down dog. We'll take the right knee forwards to the right elbow. And then move back into our down dog. We'll take it forwards to the left elbow. And back into down dog and bring the foot to the floor. Left knee comes in, squeezes in. Come forwards into the plank. And move back to our dog. Tap the left elbow. Hips high, cross to the right, a little twisty. Dog, foot to the floor. Right knee in, come forwards. Dog. Right elbow tap. Back. Left elbow back. Left knee comes in. Center, dog, tap the left, and back, tap the right, and back, and foot to the floor, whew. Down to the ground with the knees, onto the elbows. Elbows are shoulder distance apart, bring hands into prayer, tucking the little finger underneath. Press the shoulders away from the ground, get as much distance as your chest from the floor as possible. Take the feet out to the corner edges of the mat, into plank. Keep pressing the forearms down, trying to keep those shoulders lifting. Head in line with the rest of the body. Hopefully the belly's drawn in, pressing out through the heels. Pressing away, it's easy to sink. Get even more height. Last one. Knees to the floor. Whew. Get gently back into child's pose. Okay, we're going to come back into the same position, only this time we're going to cross the forearms underneath us. So forearm touches forearm, and then we take the feet back, this time hip distance apart, roll the feet over to the left, and we can take that right hand up towards the sky. We'll come into a side elbow plank. We'll take the right hand under, through, touch behind us on the left side of the mat. Exhale. Keep the hips lifted. 3, support. Keep the shoulder pressing away from the ground. Side. Back down to the floor. Cross over to the other side. With as much finesse as we can manage. And we take it over to the other side. Make sure we're happy with the position of the elbow underneath the shoulder, pressing down. Taking that left hand high. 1, tap under. 2, tap under. 3, strong legs, hips lifting. 1 more. Hands to the floor. Back into a plank. And then take a little breath there, knees to the floor. Spin the toes out to the side. Lengthen them out in front. We'll use hands behind, knees high to roll to the ground as the head comes to the floor. Draw the left knee in, take the hands around the shin. Lengthen the right leg out down the center line, flex the foot, toes to the sky and spread. Use the arms to draw that left knee in towards the armpit. Going for lots of stretch. Just opening the body. It's a gentle progressive opening up. Release. Bring right foot back in. Take the hands around the shin. Slide the leg out. And then when you're ready, that right knee to wherever it can go. Lengthening out through a strong, active left leg. Toes skybound. Slide turning into the center if it needs to help the foot away into the ceiling. You're going to release. Bring the feet to the floor. Close into your body. You're going to roll onto your side and then onto your belly. The head is away from the screen. Belly face down, chin on the floor. Take the hands down by the side of your hips, palm face down. Have the feet a little wider than the hips, shoulder distance apart for locust pose. So we're going to lift the hands, the chest, and the thighs and feet from the floor. As we inhale, everything lifts off the ground slowly, a progressive lift. Exhale with control, we come back down. Inhale up. Exhale down. 3 more. Again, giving you a little chance to track the shoulder blades together. Come up for the last time. And then as you arrive chin to the floor, bend your left knee and bring your heel towards your bottom to eventually find your ankle with your hand. Then we'll do the same with the right leg. Find the foot, then the ankle. Get a nice lock on there, flex the feet, press the thighs and the hips down into the floor. Roll the shoulders back and away. Press the shins to the other end of the mat to get the chest to lift. Coming into bow pose. Take another breath and let the thighs lift away from the floor by pressing the soles of the feet to the sky. 5 breaths in. And back down. And we roll onto our spine. Block underneath the back of the head. And it's Shavasana. Into the corner edges. Out by the side of the body. Wriggle around to let your body find its own natural alignment. Close your eyes. Soften your breath, loosen your jaw. Let yourself just breathe with your breath. And we'll slowly begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Wrists and the ankles to get a little movement as well. A couple of deeper, longer breaths. Use that energy to stretch out. It feels good. And then a very light, easy hug or some hip circling, whatever feels good at this time of the evening. Remember, sometimes less is more as we are trying to keep ourselves into that parasympathetic nervous system area. Take another breath in. Use the exhale to roll down to the floor. Take the breath in at the ground. Use the next exhale to press and lift away from the floor. And bring ourselves into the easy sitting posture that we like. And then the spine being tall, you can bring the hands in towards our heart. Taking a breath in and closing the eyes. Let the chin drop, let the belly draw to the spine, bowing down to the floor to seal our practice. And gratitude. Inhale, lifting the spine back up. Opening the eyes. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I'll see you on the mat again soon.